Council, all the respected members of faculty, honorable guests, and dear students of NDIM. I would like to first of all express my deepest pleasure and heartfelt thanks to all of you for having invited me here and express your desire to hear some spiritual wisdom connected to management science. You are all lovers of management science, either studying it as students or teaching it as members of the faculty or practicing it in the industry. When I studied management science about now almost 40 years ago, it was all about the manipulation of external resources, finances, personnel, machines, market environments, information systems. There was no emphasis on the need and the potential of the inner mindset of the manager. However, that inner mindset is so important. It makes the difference between success and failure. In the previous century in San Francisco, a social scientist called Dr. Rosenthal conducted an experiment that is called famous by the name Pygmalion in the classroom. This was a double-blind test. The principal informed 3 teachers of 3 sections of the class that you have been selected on a secret criteria for your immense potential. And that is why we are assigning to you students who have tremendous potential. These teachers had been selected randomly, but they did not know. And students were also selected randomly and assigned to these teachers, having told them that we have checked you out and discovered that you have tremendous potential, so we are assigning you to our very best teachers. Now, it was a double-blind test. At the end of 1 year, the performance of the students in those 3 sections had gone up by 30% compared to the average. When the teachers were informed of this, they said, that is very natural. You gave us the best students. They were told the students had been selected randomly. They said, in that case, we were the best teachers. You told us that we are bright. They said, we had selected you also randomly. But what accounted for this spurt in performance? It was merely a change in the attitude. The teachers thought, something spectacular is happening here. We must do our best. If ever the students were unable to understand, they would think, how else can I explain it? They would never fault the student for it. And the students thought that, we are having this special opportunity. We must give our best. But what changed in that 1 year was the inner attitude. This was the mindset. So, in the course of your management studies, you are exposed to so many aspects aspects of management science. However, the science of managing your own mind is either just brushed lightly or ignored completely. And that is why I like to have this slogan, Manager, manage thyself. You are becoming expert in managing personnel and finances and information systems, etc. But are you able to manage your own mind? It's not very difficult. It's just a question of prioritizing it, understanding the principles, and practicing it to unleash the infinite potential that you have as an inner resource that is available to all of us, irrespective of the bank loans or the increasing or fluctuating economy or anything else. Your thoughts are always at your command. So the art of how to think. And if we repeatedly bring particular kinds of thoughts to ourselves, they harden into an attitude. So, Amazon's publication wing, Westland, they published my book in October. And at one time it had reached #1 in Nielsen chart. And I guess the college has picked up the topic from there and requested me to speak on it. So I've crystallized 7 mindsets, 7 ways of thinking that will help you achieve happiness, success, and fulfillment. The first is the mindset of positivity. You see, we don't realize that at every moment we have a choice. Do I want to be happy? Do I want to be inspired? Do I want to be contented? You can choose the thoughts as you wish. When the flooding took place in Uttarakhand a few years ago, you would be remembering, the media was there to cover the disaster. Now the media was having a field day because they were getting a lot of what are they called, TRPs or whatever, and covering people's sob stories. What is the catastrophe that has happened in your home? And the person would relate a sob story until all of a sudden the camera turned to one lady and the interviewer said, "Aapke yahan kya durghatna hui? Aapki kya dukh ki katha hai?" The lady said, "Main Bhagwan ko dhanyavad de rahi." The interviewer said, "आपके यहाँ कोई विनाश नहीं हुआ? आपका घर सही सलामत?" The lady said, "घर तो पानी में बह गया, खत्म ही हो गया." So he said, "फिर आप भगवान को धन्यवाद क्यों दे रहे हैं?" अरे भाई, किसी का एक कमरा बह गया, किसी की छत ढह गई, आपका घर ही चला गया और आप भगवान को धन्यवाद दे रहे हैं. The lady said, मेरे पतिदेव और बच्चे तो सुरक्षित हैं, वो बह जाते, उनको रिप्लेस करना संभव नहीं, घर का क्या है उसको फिर से बना देंगे. So what is this? This is the mindset of positivity. We don't realize it, but you can always make a choice to be positive in any situation. And why do we become negative? Because we emphasize our own desires so much that we are not able to see the numerous blessings that we are receiving. One man used to always complain to God कि मेरे classmates पर आपने इतनी कृपा की है, मैं क्या, मैं तो क्लर्क हूँ, यहाँ पे कुछ मिला ही नहीं. Until he developed an itch in his eye. So he went to show the doctor what the matter is. The doctor said, my, you have got a tumor, a cancerous growth. If we don't remove your eyes, it will spread into the body. He said, what? I will be blind after my surgery? They said, otherwise you lose your life. So the date of the surgery was decided. He entered the hospital that day with the complete belief that when he would be discharged, he would walk out blind and not see thenceforth. However, after the anesthesia, when his eyes were cut, the doctor discovered there was no tumor. It was a rare fungus that was growing. So he cleaned it up and stitched his eyes. Finally, when the bandage was removed and this man opened his eyes, he said, wow, I can see. Thank you, God, for the gift of sight. He always had it. He had it for 54 years, but he never thanked God. When it was about to be snatched away and wasn't, he realized what a blessing it was. Have we all not received that blessing here? Is there any blind student? No. So don't we have this tremendous blessing? Each eye fitted with 125 million nerves that help us distinguish between HDTV and SDTV, that help us relish the glory of the eagle in flight and to watch the wonder of the setting sun and the immense grandeur of the great Himalayas. Count it as a blessing of the Lord. Is anybody out here deaf? I don't think so. We have these 2 ears, each fitted with 24,000 tubes, with the help of which we can hear anything from 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz. We can rejoice in the sound of the leaves rustling in the wind and the mirth of children in laughter. Count it as another blessing. Is anybody out here dumb? No, we all have the vocal cords and the tongue, with the help of which we can speak words to console, words to inspire, words to encourage, words to enlighten. You can count literally millions of blessings that all of us have received. It doesn't mean that you don't have your share of miseries. We all do. Everybody's cup of life has its half emptiness, but it also has its half fullness. Negative thinking is to focus on what we don't have. वो स्टूडेंट तो टॉप, वो स्टूडेंट का तो हिंदुस्तान लीवर्स में जॉब हो गया, मेरा नहीं हुआ. Positive thinking is to count the blessings and rejoice. As I traveled around the whole country in the last 5 months, I can tell you that there would be millions upon millions of students who, if they had the opportunity to study at NDIM, in the capital of this country, they would say, Bhagwan, hamari to naukri khul gayi. So the first mindset then is the mindset of positivity. Well, this makes us introspect. Supposing we say, yes, positivity is what it should be, but when I look inside, I find negative thinking. You laugh at what I used to do as an 8th grader. I used to be conscious of the negative thinking and realize it's bad. So I would make little slips, no negatives, put it in every pocket of my body. So any time I picked up, it would be a reminder. But if we discover negative thoughts in ourselves, of despondency, of misery, sorrow, now what do we do? How do we respond? The natural human reflex is to find fault in the environment. Why am I sad? वो छोटे भाई ने मेरे साथ ऐसा किया, मैं क्या करूँ? Why are you sad? टीचर ने डांट लगा दी, sad नहीं होंगे तो और क्या करेंगे? For our moods, we hold the environment responsible. And that is one of the biggest mistakes that we can make as a human being. Because no matter what the environment, your thoughts is always your choice. Nobody can force you. तबीयत खराब हो गई, रोना पड़ेगा वरना खबरदार जेल में डाल दिए जाओ. Is there any such rule? So if you become miserable, it's a choice. As they say, that suffering is inevitable. Misery is a choice. So when difficulties and hardships come upon us, how do we respond? That is the art of mind management that the saints in the Indian tradition and worldwide have always emphasized. The Bhagavad Gita says, Uddharedatmanatmanam atmanam avasadayet atmaiva yatmano bandhur atmaiva ripuratmanah. Arjun, this mind, if uncontrolled, can be your worst enemy. Your biggest dushman is sitting inside you, the uncontrolled mind. But if you subdue it, it can become your most loyal and valuable friend. That is why, Arjun, uplift yourself by the power of your mind. Do not degrade yourself. So how will the degradation happen? When we absolve responsibility for our thoughts. In other words, my mood is not my responsibility. You have all met people like that. Why are you so unhappy? It's not my fault. It's my boss's fault. I don't have any responsibility for my moods. It's all the environment that is controlling me. So such people never feel that they need to do something to hold good thoughts and to drop the poor thoughts. And the consequence, they feel victimized by the environment. Now situations will be good, they will be bad. Life doesn't give you a guarantee that you will always have golden spoons. Life may serve you with a sour lemon. But how you respond is the big thing. Do you become bitter because of it? Or do you use it to make a lemonade? Look what the Ramayana says, so interesting. How will you purify your mind? Tulsidas ji says, embrace negative circumstances. Nindak niyare rakhiye, aangan kuti chhavaya, nit sabun pani mina, nirmal kare subhai. Get somebody who is vituperatively critical of you, viciously. Put him in your house, put a tilak on his head. In other words, respect him. So please, create adverse circumstances for me. And in that situation, just remain positive. Without soap and water, he guarantees you, in the Ramayana, your mind will be cleansed. So what is mind management? Mind management is that no matter what the circumstances, I will control my thoughts. At first, I agree. As a teenager, it seems very difficult. What? For my moods, it's my parents' fault. They are to blame. But it's like the muscle which you start exercising. And slowly, slowly the mind comes under control. Until you realize that your thoughts is always your choice. And when that stage comes, that is when you actually mature in life. When you break out of the blame game. That means where I am in life today is all my responsibility, my karmas. And if I wish to make a better future, I will need to change something. The definition of madness is described as keeping on doing the same thing and hoping that the future changes. If you want a brighter future, you have to do better things now. And the most important better things is to choose better thoughts. So the second mindset then is the mindset of responsibility for your emotions. No more blame game. When we come to that realization, then naturally the desire arises. I wish to improve. I wish to grow to my infinite potential. So, in this growth journey that starts after the second mindset, the third mindset comes into play. And this is the mindset of inspiration. How inspired are you? Excuse me. I'm at the end of my 5-month tour of USA, so somehow my throat has an intellect of its own. It knows that it can fall in a poor condition right now. So usually I don't have such a gruff voice, so I apologize for any shortage in my discourse today. The third mindset is the mindset of enthusiasm. Some of you may be familiar with the story of Mr. Soichiro Honda. It is most astonishing. He was one of the most successful industrialists in the world, founder of the worldwide Honda empire. And a sadhu like me, what do I have to do with the story of an industrialist like him? But I found it very exemplary. He was born in a middle-class family in Japan. And he went to engineering school, but he wanted to go beyond. So he designed a new kind of piston ring and took the design to Toyota Corporation. They rejected it outright. So when he returned, he became the laughing stock amongst his classmates. They said, "You wanted to sell piston rings to Toyota?" But he was not to be discouraged. He went back to the drawing board, he created a new design, took the prototype, and this time his design got accepted and he received an order and was extended a loan to establish his auxiliary unit. So when he set up the piston ring factory, an earthquake hit Japan and the factory was leveled to the ground. Well, he said, never mind. Once I have failed, I will try again. He was about to create the factory again when Japan entered the Second World War. And all the cement was diverted to the war machinery. There was none available for his factory. He was still not discouraged. Along with his friends, he created a new way to make cement, and he established his factory again. But before production could begin, America entered the war. And after the Pearl Harbor bombing, the American bombers came and bombed his factory in Japan. So down it went again. But in those days, the planes were different. They would carry the gasoline with them. And then once it was emptied in the tank, it would be thrown down. So he called those gasoline tanks as gifts of Mr. Truman. He used them and he created his factory yet again. By the time it got completed, Japan lost in the World War. So they lost control of their colonies and all the fuel supply. Now nobody had any fuel for their own cars. Toyota was no longer selling cars. Mr. Honda did not have fuel for his own car. What to do? So he was riding his bicycle when he had an idea. He fitted a motor to it. And that was the first motorcycle. Now when he took it around, his neighbors said, can you do that for us as well? So he did it for 20, 30 people until he realized he had a marketable idea. But he didn't have the money. Now what to do? Never say die. He got a list of 8,000 cycle stockists of Japan. And he hand wrote letters to 5,000 of them with his idea and request for a loan. 1,800 responded. So he set up his factory and created the first motorcycle of the world, which was a huge contraption. Nobody was interested. He still didn't get discouraged. He created a smaller model and he called it the Super Cup. It was an immediate success. After that, he never looked back. In his lifetime, Honda Corporation was employing 100,000 people worldwide. So when I heard the story, I said, what was his distinguishing mindset? It was his inspiration that helped him go through the most difficult obstacles and hardships. You see, difficulties will always come. What is the difference between a success and a failure? The failure gave up after 3 futile attempts. The successful person also failed 10 times, but continued and succeeded in the 11th attempt. And what enabled that person to go on was the inspiration, the enthusiasm. When I was my Gurudev, he called me over to his ashram and he said, I will teach you the Vedic knowledge. So I went over and at his lotus feet I was studying the scriptures. And he said, I wish you to distribute this knowledge in future. I had no experience of public speaking. So I decided that I need to practice public speaking as well. The problem was there was no public in that ashram. There were only 15 ashram vasis. So I would try to speak to the wall of my little ashram room. There can be nothing more demotivating than speaking to a wall. Try giving a lecture to a wall and see. Within 5 minutes I would struggle and stop. I went to my spiritual teacher and said, Maharajji, I'm having a little problem. Can you please designate an ashramvasi who can sit in front of me for 1 hour every day? So हम उसको lecture सुना देंगे. Actually, nobody had 1 hour to listen to me. But Maharajji resolved it very well. He utilized that as an opportunity to teach. He said, my child, you are thinking that the external situation is making me careless and I can't practice lecturing to a wall. Remember, carelessness never comes from the outside. It is always from the inside. It's the thoughts we harbor. And you can always change those thoughts. So he told me this formula 31 years ago. He said, you remember, you will need it all your life. Sayat kamo bhavati, tat kratur bhavati. Yat kratur bhavati, tat karma kurute. Yat karma kurute, tadabhi nishpadyate. If you develop a sincere aspiration, a strong one, you will make a firm resolve. And when you have a firm resolve, you will put in tremendous effort. And that is how you will become. And if your aspiration is mild, chalta hai, the resolve will also be shaky. The effort will also be lukewarm, and that is how you will become. I said, my, I thought that this situation is causing the carelessness, and my Guru says that I am being careless as a matter of choice. Now I have to finish this. So the next day, with full determination, I started off. And without batting an eyelid, at the full tempo, I was able to deliver the lecture to the wall. I had discovered a fountain source of enthusiasm right within. Subsequently, as I stayed there for 1 year, every day I made it a habit. Some days I would lecture to the cornfields outside, some days to the water canal, some days to the goats that were grazing or the cows that were mooing. Nothing could distract. So this inspiration is something that all of us can develop within ourselves. That is the third mindset for success. But inspiration is again not enough. Bina brake ki gaadi. Maut ki sawari. Veerappan Moily was also inspired. The dacoit from Karnataka who killed 1,000 people and 2,000 elephants. Where he lacked was in the purity of his intention. So the fourth mindset now for success is the purity of your intention. Now somebody may say, what is the need of pure intention? This may be a gap between the faculty and the students. The faculty says you need to have focus on developing values, and students say, I've come here to get knowledge and earn money. What is the need for values? So what is the importance of the mindset of pure intention? Well, very interesting. All the stress that we experience is because of impure intention. You don't realize it. Stress is the... Now, coronavirus has got only 80,000 people affected, right? But stress has got how many people affected? about 2 billion. That means 20 crore people affected by stress. And what is the solution for stress? Everybody is worried. The term stress management, because everybody is trying to cope with stress. What is the solution? What to do? And for the students, when you enter the industry, at the workplace, this is called the executive's disease, stress. There'll always be performance targets to meet, sales targets to fulfill, and bosses to satisfy, and the danger of the job which you may just be losing, etc., etc. So, as engineers, you know what is stress. It is the force in a structure, a beam, a machine part that tends to shear it, twist it, turn it, break it, bend it. Now, we human beings experience stress in our emotional personality. When we perceive that the situation around requires more resources than I have, either emotional resources, or financial, or physical, or intellectual, or spiritual wisdom, and that causes the stress. And do you know what is the solution for stress? I decided to ask Mr. Google, what is the solution for stress? It was about 10 years ago. I was in Chicago. That is where Bansalji's brother-in-law, Dr. Brahmagupta, he met me. So I was in Chicago, and the IIT Alumni Association of Midwest, they came to know that Swamiji is a fellow alumnus of IIT. So they said, can you please come to our monthly meeting? I said, sure. What do you want me to speak about? How to know God? Oh, come on, you've got to be joking. We are all captains of the industry, and God is an old-fashioned concept. So I said, you tell me what you want to hear about. They said, we want to hear about stress management. I said, all right. At least if you don't believe in God, you believe in stress, you believe in something. So then I asked Mr. Google, how to manage stress? Somebody says, listen to soft music. Somebody says, do yoga. Somebody offers Tai Chi. Somebody offers meditation. Somebody offers an evening walk or a morning walk. So I said, look, sab apni apni dhapli baja rahe. The real solution was given 5,000 years ago by Lord Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. And that solution has not been excelled in 5,000 years. Lord Krishna gave this one verse, I think, which everybody is familiar with. Karmanye vadhikaraste ma phaleshu kada. Arjuna, do your duty to the best of your ability, but don't be attached to results. There's the solution. Why does stress get generated? Not because of hard work, because of attachment to results. The moment we are attached, immediately stress begins. Whether it is your marks in the exam. One student came to me, Swamiji, I have this final year exam coming in March. It was the month of November, and I'm so stressed. I said, are you stressed because you have to work hard for the next 4 months? Yes. Impossible. Hard work can never stress you, it can tire you. The cause of stress is your own emotional investment in the results. So the Bhagavad Gita says, don't be attached. Immediately stress will disappear. What does attachment have to do with purity of intention? That is the divine perspective. We are thinking, I have to work for myself. for my own pleasure, for my own glory, for my own aggrandizement. So the results are for my enjoyment. And as you grow through life, slowly you come to the conclusion, you realize that you work for a higher purpose. You work for the pleasure of the Supreme or the universe or nature or humankind or whatever you believe in. And when you work for that higher cause, the results are not for you, they are for that cause. And then you become detached. That is the purity of intention. So somebody says, if I work with pure intention, I will become ineffective. Absolutely not. You will be freed up from all the emotional disturbances. You will do even better. Now, 4 mindsets. I don't want to tire you out. I will cover the last 3 quickly and we'll have the questions. The 5th mindset. Intention is also not enough. Every year, there are tens of thousands of startups and 9 out of 10 of them fail. These are the statistics. The youngsters, keep that in mind. 9 out of 10 startups fail. They had the best intention. Why did they fail? Most likely they didn't have the knowledge required. So after the mindset of intention, the next ingredient is knowledge. In today's day and age, there is no dearth of knowledge all around us. There is no dearth of information. But it's up to you to tap it and to gather the knowledge, the wisdom that helps you to move ahead. Our Vedic scriptures emphasize knowledge so much. The Bhagavad Gita, I quote it because that's where I did my schooling of spirituality. Nahi jnanena sadrisham pavitram iha vidyate. Arjun, there is nothing as pure in this world as true knowledge. So the 5th mindset then is the mindset of knowledge. When you pass out of this campus, don't stop learning. The statistics reveal that 33% of Americans after graduation, they never read a book again. They think they already have the knowledge they need. And that is the biggest mistake. So keep on upgrading your knowledge all through your life. Not only in regard to your profession, but also in regard to your self-growth, in regard to your health, in regard to your relationships, every aspect of your life. Keep on upgrading your wisdom. So now we come to having the right knowledge. What is the next ingredient? There's a saying that good ideas are a dime a dozen. But they are not worth a broken nickel until implemented. There's a joke that Brahma ji once said to Yamraj कि आजकल तो इंडिया में सब लोग इतने वाइज हो गए, सब लोग व्हाट्सएप के माध्यम से इतना ज्ञान शेयर करते जा रहे हैं, सब बुद्धिमान हो गए, यमराज जी आपके द्वार पर तो कोई आता ही नहीं होगा। यमराज ने कहा ब्रह्मा जी वो ज्ञान शेयर तो करते हैं लेकिन स्वयं यूटिलाइज नहीं करते। जैसे मैंने आपको व्हाट्सएप भेजा था कि कोलेस्ट्रॉल कैसे कम किया जाए, आपने पढ़ा क्या? ब्रह्मा जी ने कहा मैंने उसको 3 ब्रॉडकास्ट लिस्ट में फॉरवर्ड कर दिया लेकिन स्वयं पढ़ा नहीं। यमराज ने कहा कि पिताजी यही तो प्रॉब्लम है, वो ज्ञान जा रहा इधर उधर लेकिन यूटिलाइज नहीं हो रहा। What is the gap between knowledge and its implementation? This is an ingredient called self-discipline, self-control. Now every student realizes the importance of this. I need to study, but the lure of games is so much. I need to focus, but the mind wants to think of this and that. Everybody in life realizes the need of center. I wish I had not spoken this sentence there. How I regret. And the elders, I wish I had not eaten this third rasgulla. It's going to tell on my health. It's always a problem of not enough willpower. The challenges to willpower, and in the age of multimedia, they've multiplied. From all sides, there's social media and internet and the TV and everything. There are allurements on all sides. And poor person, what to do? Self-control. The one big thing. If you ask me one big thing in life, it is self-control. I'll give you the facts. Again, a social experiment from the last century. This time the researcher was Walter Mischel. The experiment was again conducted in California, in Stanford. Walter Mischel wanted to study the self-control of toddlers. So he designed an experiment called the toddler's torture. So how they were tortured was these 3-year-olds. They would have a chocolate put in front of them. See, in that stage in life, this is the big pleasure, chocolate. But they were told, if you like, you can eat it. But if you don't eat it for 20 minutes, we'll take it away and give you 2 chocolates. If you can resist, the reward is doubled. Isn't that how life is? If you can resist the video games, then you'll have a great career, good marks. If you can resist the poor foods, you'll have great health. Always. There's always this easy pleasure and higher goals. So he was testing the self-control of 3-year-olds. 500 children were tested. Now for some of the children, it was a no-go. When there is this pleasure there, what's there to think about? The moment the researcher disappeared, the researcher would watch from the window, the child would take the chocolate and plop it in. Some children pondered over it for 2 minutes. The first time in my life there is pleasure ahead, but I am asked to deny it. What is this? कभी तो जीवन में ऐसी समस्या नहीं आई. After 2 minutes, the intellect would give up. Chalo khao. Some children actually struggled for 7 minutes. And the way they struggled was interesting. They would try and distract themselves. Don't look at that. Were finally given, अरे क्या इतना परेशान हो खा. Some children continued to resist for 20 minutes. And then they got the promised double chocolate. But the interesting twist happened down the line. Walter Mischel's daughters were a part of the samples of students studied. And they also, when they grew up, went to Stanford. So interest in the study was revived. Where are these children now in life? They were located and followed for another 30 years. The results were astonishing. Those children who had displayed the maximum self-control, they were ahead of the others in every aspect of life. They had better health, better control over the tongue, better relationships because better control over their words and behaviors, less anger, no vices, chemical addictions, more focus, better at studies, better in their jobs. And those who had displayed the least self-control were the ones who were getting into all kinds of problems in life. Studies is a problem because the mind cannot be controlled. Health is the problem because the tongue says, I want this and I want that. And they had chemical addictions, they were having broken relationships, they were losing jobs. 12% of them had been to jail and back. That is when the researchers realized that the king, the crowning inner virtue, is what? Self-discipline. Sixth mindset. Finally, the seventh one. Supposing we have all these, are we now at the mountain top? No. Because the journey is always uphill. In other words, you will always face problems. Is there any of you here today who doesn't have a problem? One cartoonist, he said, I like living my life one day at a time. But recently many days have attacked me together. We all have problems coming upon us. How do we face these problems is the big thing. So, some people, the moment a problem arises, they break. But the ones who succeed are those who have a mindset of growing in the face of challenges. I'm going to end this lecture with a little story. One boy, a fifth grader in his school, he read about how the caterpillar weaves a cocoon and then hibernates for a few weeks to finally emerge as a beautiful butterfly. When he returned, he found the cocoon hanging from the rose bush of his garden. He was thrilled, my own personal lab. So he said, wow, I will watch the miracle of nature happening. Every day while going to school and returning, he would check his personal cocoon. As the butterfly started emerging, one day, sure enough, there was a little tear. It was Sunday morning, so he would come and check after every hour. And by midday, the butterfly was emerging. He was now transfixed, watching as it was ripping apart its shell for the last so many weeks. But when it had come half out, it seemed to be stuck. And the cocoon was bobbing up and down. He felt pity. My, such a big problem. Without thinking, out of compassion, he ran home, took a pair of scissors, and clipped the cocoon to liberate the butterfly. He thought it would fly off. But it dropped to the ground, and he found it squirming there. He discovered that the stomach was swollen and the wings were shriveled. He thought this will soon correct itself, but he did not know that this would now never happen to the butterfly. That struggle, was necessary for the evolution of the butterfly. It would have helped press the fluid from the stomach into the wings. Without the difficulty, the butterfly would now ever remain crippled. Similarly, if you ask the successful people here, how did they grow in life? They will share with you from the richness of their lifetime's experience. It was the difficulties, the hardships, the challenges that made them what they are today. When we face difficulties, we look for somebody to cut them away. We want an easy life. There's an English saying that a smooth sea never maketh a skillful sailor. So there's a prayer. I prayed to God for wisdom. He gave me problems in life to solve that I may become wise. I prayed to God for strength. He gave me difficulties to surmount that I may become strong. I prayed to God for courage. He gave me dangers to face and grow in courage. I prayed to God for love. He gave me the poor and needy to serve that I may develop love. My prayers were answered, not by favorable situations, but sending in my life the unfavorable situations that forced me to grow and to evolve. The difficulties are the universe's way of helping us learn to fill our wings, to grow to the infinite potential that is in all of us.